Asian culture, communication, and the arts of the desert. Desert literature and its creativity in the writings of creative writers. Desert literature is not restricted to literature of wild and open places. By talking about desert literature, we shed light on an ambiguous world and outstanding writers such as Edmund James Cowan, Sabri Musa, Muriel Tahawi, Ibrahim Al-Kuni, and others. This kind of literature reflects their creativity in portraying the existence of humankind. For most writers, desert is a decisive means for illustrating their philosophy and conceptions of freedom and sin. They have handled the conflict between good and evil, exploiting the wide space of the desert. Ibrahim Al-Kuni, as one of the most prolific Arabic novelists, exploits the desert in presenting existential questions, spiritual quests, and mythological elements. The world of the desert, with its mountains, sands, wind, and rains, can be revealed. One of the most prominent desert writers is Ibrahim Al-Kuni. He is a Libyan writer and one of the most prolific Arabic novelists. He spent his childhood in the desert and learned to read and write Arabic when he was 12. Al-Kuni is a major figure in the Arabic literature out of his fabulous novels and outstanding short stories. He had published more than 80 books and received numerous awards. For him, desert literature becomes a means for revealing certain symbols. He always portrays desert in his novels as a motherland. Mullah says that desert is a motherland of vagueness and its sun is a fatherland of trust. It represents hope. One can search for the trust of existence in the desert. In the bleeding of the stone, Al-Kuni refers to the existence of humankind, human sins, and the conflict which results in a curse on earth. This work falls within the celebration of creativity and Libyan literature. In this novel, certain symbols are exploited for revealing great heritage and old facts. For example, Aswaf's blood, which is placed on the stone after being killed by Qabil, becomes a symbol for the tears of the stone and the resentment of the whole world from man's sins. For prolific writers like Al-Kuni, thirst, desolation, and emptiness are not the evocation of the desert. The wide space can be regarded as a kingdom of knowledge and history. For him, desert is a wide landscape or mysterious creature when one can survive. The protagonist's names in his novels carry wide meanings. They become synonymous with the landscape of the desert as an empty space and an extension of it. Harb explains that the image of the desert in the imagination of creative writers like Al-Kuni is a means for practicing transcendence and oneness with God. It's the soul freedom in addition to being the place where the absence of the authority is obvious. Al-Kuni's use of the desert as a landscape is unique. For Al-Kuni, desert has an ideological value. In his writings, he shows no need to construct urban environments. Inside this place, one becomes imbued with both energy and Sahrawi melancholy. By contemplating the desert, one finds himself in a holy and spiritual status. Desert gives its inhabitants a form of power beyond comprehension. It offers them the ability to use its landscape to engage in socio-political commentary on modern society. Roman Jacobson's theory of communication is employed in the analysis of the bleeding of the stone. The chosen theory had been taken from Roman Jacobson's book Style in Language in a chapter entitled The Closing Statement, Linguistics and Poetics, which has been published in 1960, and another book entitled A Glance at the Development of Semiotics, which has been published in 1987. The components of Jacobson's model of communication are the addressor, the addressee, context, message, contact, and the code. Hence, depending on the focus of the components of communication, the functions are emotive, cognitive, referential, poetic, phatic, and metalingual. According to Roman Jacobson, the sender of the message may be either a speaker or a writer. The addressor has the ability to start, sustain, prolong, or continue communication using certain messages. Also, the power to start and sustain communication is typical of talking pairs. So the phatic function of language is the only one they share with human beings. The addressee is the intended receiver of the message. He may be absent or implicit. The addressee, in addition, may be a reader, a listener, or the audience. He can receive either imperative sentences or declarative ones. There should be a mode of contact by which the message is delivered between the addressor and the addressee. The contact is the medium of communication through which the message is transmitted. Contact differs from oral communication to written one. If spoken words are presented to us in writing, for example, either the writer or the reader must supply features of oral communication lost in this translation. Code is the language one writes in, or the language which writers and readers share. If the writer and reader uses the same code, communication becomes much simpler. Code includes the alphabet and the discourse conventions we use. Context is the subject matter of discourse or what it refers to. Jacobson stressed the importance of the context asserting that in the theory of language, the word out of context had one meaning, so occurrences of the same word in two different contexts are more homogeneous. It provides a framework for encoding and decoding the message. Message is the substance of the information transferred from an addressor to an addressee. There are messages primarily serving to establish, to prolong, or discontinue communication, to check whether the channel works, as in, "Hello, do you hear me?" to attract the attention of the interlocutor, or to confirm his or her continued attention, as in, "Are you listening?" or in Shakespearean text. Metaphor and metonymy presented by Jacobson entail substitution of one term for another, but the fundamental difference lies in the fact that metaphor entails a transfer of meaning between normally unrelated domains, whereas metonymy utilizes the term that's a property of the key word or is related to it contiguously. The Chilson theory is employed in this research for revealing desert literature and its creativity in the writings of creative writers. The turns and salts of Falcone appear through identifying the main character in the novel, the main message, and the context behind each dialogue in addition to certain images. Aswaf, the main character in the novel, lives the traditional life of Bedouins in the Libyan desert. He is used as a symbol for all Libyans during the period of Italian occupation, who were eager to protect their country and its historical places against or invaders. Consequently, the desert is depicted as a symbol for freedom. The desert represents freedom, escape, nature, and independence. It's a kind of pilgrimage. The desert of the southwest witnesses fickle weather. It's the haven of unruly animals. The place is an ideal setting for witners because deserts challenge the human ability to survive. Qabil and Cain in the Holy Quran. It's obvious. Cain represents evil and the opposite of Aswaf, who represents God and obedience. Qabil killed his brother Labil, and Qabil in his novel killed Aswaf. Qabil is depicted by Falcone as an evil and great person, in addition to being revengeful. He is aggressive, cruel, and cursed. He used to eat sheep and wadan, in addition to drinking blood, so he had an inclination towards violence. He is the second main character after Aswaf, and perhaps the whole novel revolves around ambitious personality and such. The novelist tried to show him from time to time, highlighting him and the stages of his life, how he was born, how he lost his parents, how he dealt with meat, where he fed and how he lived, how the deer killed his sister and how the man killed his brother. He represents the role of the unjust man who spread his oppression towards humans and animals. In his article, Wiesberg adds that Aswaf represents the indigenous minority is the opposite of Qabil, who reflects the culture of the widespread and globalized majority. Qabil symbolizes chaos and evil, while Aswaf symbolizes loneliness and emptiness of the desert. For Aswaf's mother, she tried to drive away the ghost of isolation from her husband and take the land of her son. She merged into the desert, regarding herself part of it. She died as a result of torrential rains. The period of the Italian invasion was accompanied by flooding and drought. A flash flood took the desert dwellers by surprise and also took the life of Aswaf's mother. Aswaf's brother Father breaking his bowl reminds of us of the story of Adam and Eve. Upon breaking the bowl, they had taken upon themselves not to eat from the fruits of the paradise. They were banished from the paradise. Likewise, as was the father lost his life upon breaking his bowl. As of like all good and individuals is always protected by the divine soul. The mountain itself represents the sacred sanctuary and the niche of the gods. The writer also compares the desert in this quotation with its wide space to paradise. Everything in this wide space symbolizes a value. For example, the stars symbolize guidance, that symbolize aim, the wind represents the transmission of news, and the sky with its turn symbolizes peace and fighting conflicts. Certain images in this novel reflect creativity in desert literature. Al-Kuni tries to draw a complete picture about the existence of humankind through this literary work. The desert represents light, freedom, and purity. In addition, it is a land of religious and the symbol of worship and mysticism. This scene reminds us of one of the verses in Al-Ahzab chapter. Allah Almighty said, "We didn't indeed offer the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they refused to undertake it, being afraid thereof. But man undertook it. He was indeed unjust and false." The Wabdan is used to represent desert in particular and earth in general. That's to say, earth is depicted by the writer as an animal whose blood is spilled by an enemy or hungry monster. The picture of the Wabdan was spread on all walls, reminding us of the old life and the paintings which were spread on all the walls and temples. Al-Kuni tries to draw a complete picture about the oppression of man to man, and also of man to nature, desert or land. Man tries to satisfy his desire, neglecting all what surrounds him. Through applying Roman Jacobson's theory of communication to a set of commutations in the Chelsea novel, the present study has attempted to explore the use of semiotics in our lives in general and the analysis of literary works in particular. It has proved that reality is a system of science, and we have no way of understanding anything except through science and the codes into which they are organized. In addition, the study has indicated that we are always dealing with science, not with an immediate objective reality, and that science systems are involved in the construction of meaning. The chosen theory gives the analysis necessary structure and provides the needed tools for the analysis. It has provided an appropriate theoretical framework for a comprehensive examination of certain quotations in one of the most important novels in desert literature, The Bleeding of the Stone. Roman Jacobson's semiotic theory of communication has proved that meanings that emerge always sustain the potential for the arbitrary nature of communication. Through this study, the researcher has reflected the hidden world of the desert with its wide space and its significance as a main source for inspiration to all writers. As literature is the closest way to reach a realistic reference to get from it, Al-Kuni succeeds in expressing reality and drawing a complete picture about it. Desert literature through this novel. He has presented the desert with all its symbols, including sands, rains, torrents, plains, mountains, winds, and stars. Al-Kuni has presented the desert as a symbol for isolation, war, beauty, purity, death, and freedom. Consequently, Al-Kuni sees the desert as a hidden and paradoxical world, full of both good and evil. Moreover, Al-Kuni, who is embodied in the character of Aswad in The Bleeding of the Stone, represents the pious mystic person. He has a good knowledge about the Holy Quran and the Old Heritage. The end. Thank you.